Good evening. Welcome to the February 11th, 2020 edition of the Downers Grove Village Council meeting. We're glad you're with us tonight. We start our meetings by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Hope you'll all join us and join in.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Megan, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Jose?
Here.
Commissioner Earl?
Here.
Commissioner Wallace?
Here.
Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit?
Here.
Commissioner Colavini?
Here.
Commissioner Gray? Mayor Barnett?
Here. Thank you for that. So tonight's meeting, we have a presentation that'll be early in the agenda. There are copies of the agenda located on either side of the room for those in the audience. For those watching at home, if you go to our website, downers.us, in the lower left-hand corner, there's a link for this week's meetings. You'll see much of that information there as well. First item on tonight's agenda are minutes of previous council meetings.
Mayor Barnett, I move that the council adopt the executive session minutes for January 7th, 2020 and January 14th, 2020, as well as the council minutes from January 21st, 2020, as presented.
Second.
Any council comments on those? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you for that. Moving right along, we have a special presentation this evening. Economic Development Corporation is here to give a quarterly report and be presented by Michael Castle. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor Barnett, Commissioners, I'm here to present our quarterly report. So Michael Castle, I'm President, CEO of the Downers Grove Economic Development Corporation, located at 5159 Mokel in downtown Downers Grove. Before I start, I wanted to welcome Andy Sikich. Well, I may have be saying something maybe ahead of the mayor, but Andy's an old friend that goes back to my Oswego days, and we are fortunate to have him. He's a good man. Let me start with getting the remote. Start with a report on municipal and home rule sales tax. In October, the municipal sales tax was up 1.78% over the previous year. The November results, which just came in, we were down 3.3%, again over the same period a year ago. On the home rule sales tax for October, we were up 3.63% over the same period a year ago, and November, which just came in, we were up 3.13% over November of 2018. On the hotel taxes, we're still one hotel from reporting away from having the final numbers for 19, but as of the end of November, we have a 6.85% increase over the same period the previous year, previous November. Some of the additional data we're going to start tracking, some of these numbers I'm going to share with you tonight, and there's going to be more data that we're going to track and provide some historical context. The first one is industrial occupancy rate. We don't have a rate per se per municipality. It is done per submarket, and that's how it's reported by all the major real estate companies. Downers Grove, for industrial development purposes, is in the I-88 corridor. That's the submarket, and you'll see that the vacancy rate is 6.39%, which is extremely low vacancy rate, and the availability rate, which includes what's currently available, that's the vacancy rate, plus any leases that are coming to expire. That's 9.3%, again, very low. The office occupancy rate, it's a little higher, as it is throughout the United States. We are part of what's called the East-West Corridor for purposes of the office market. The Class A direct vacancy rate is 16.21%, and that's in the entire corridor. And the availability rate is 21.54. And again, the availability rate is not only what's vacant, but also what leases are coming due, or perhaps tenants are downsizing. The Class B direct vacancy rate is just under 15%, and the Class B availability rate is 17.5%. I will say that while we don't have hard numbers, we stay in regular contact with the leasing companies for the major Class A office buildings in Downers Grove, and if Cranes would just do a story on this, it would show that we have some of the highest occupancy rates in the Class A market in the Chicago area. We're one of the leaders in the western suburbs. We actually don't have a lot available, and that's a good thing, but it's also not so good when someone calls to say, do you have 50,000 square feet, and they give me the specs and we don't have it. But our job there is to make sure that we keep those buildings full. The next one is the national consumer spending, bricks and mortar versus online. The final 2019 numbers aren't in, but the holiday numbers are, and that's the period, right, the 30-day period before Christmas. And holiday consumer spending for online was represented 18.8% of total spending, and that's when online spending is at its highest, as you can imagine, is during holiday season. And the projection for 2020 is that total online spending for the entire year will be 15.5% of all consumer sales. So it still leaves 84.5% that is being spent in more traditional ways, going into stores and so forth. Once the 2019 consumer spending numbers are out, we will give you that. The other part I wanted to mention is that this month there should be the reports out on the final numbers per segment for 2019, how the country did in terms of autos, in terms of furniture sales and appliances, also with the percentage of online versus bricks and mortar. And then that data will again be compiled. We're going to put some historical context to it, and you'll start to see more of that information going forward. So at each meeting that I speak at, I always try to put in something maybe that we haven't talked about recently. So today we're going to take a look at our marketing and outreach plan for 2020. It always has the same goal: to build and sustain relationships and awareness of our community. This leads to companies calling us directly or through their representatives. It also leads to referrals, where I get someone calling me up saying, hey, you might want to call so-and-so. They're looking to do a project. So I'm going to go through what our office does in terms of marketing and outreach, and then some of the things that I do individually, again, to try to spread the good word about Downers Grove. First is advertising. We don't do a ton of advertising, mostly because it's very expensive. So what we try to do is we try to target our dollars so that the audience for each ad that we run is, we can identify it, and it's much more easier for us to be able to determine if we got a good response. So here are two examples. The first one, the gold colored ad, is an ad that we did in the DuPage Convention and Visitors Bureau annual guide. This is an ad that talks about our hotels and some of the reasons that people should visit Downers Grove. The other ad, which is in blue, is the ad we ran in the State of Illinois' Economic Development Guide. And this talks about why companies ought to look at Downers Grove. And if you look at it, I know it's hard to see, we have that map in the corner of the ad. The idea is to tout one of our biggest strategic advantages, our location. Downers Grove is a great location for companies to be able to get to and from on the interstates, to the airport, 3 metro stations. We literally do not stop talking about that because it is one of our top attributes. An annual luncheon, which we not only use to recognize local companies and completed projects, but we invite a lot of our clients to the luncheon, brokers, developers. It probably makes up about 25% of the audience. So it's an opportunity for us to brag about our town and show off the good things that are happening in front of an important audience for us. The annual luncheon for 2020 is on May 8th. You'll all receive an invitation, so please mark your calendar at the DoubleTree, 11 a.m. on the 8th. This will be the 5th year that we've done our annual brokers reception at Alter Brewing. The tentative date, I believe, is October 27th. And for those of you that have been to this event, it's not only very effective in terms of outreach to the brokerage community, but it's also a lot of fun. And I think most of you have been to the event. If not, we hope you can come this year. Last year, we had about 60 commercial real estate brokers come to the event, where they had a chance to sample Alter beer and food from Capri, and a chance to meet elected officials, other business leaders. It's a great way for us to kind of show off our town. We have a good working relationship with Choose DuPage. That's the economic development agency for DuPage County. Almost never miss one of their events. They have a quarterly communities meeting that I participate in, and we work very closely with their staff and again with different programs that they have, and sometimes they'll provide a lead to us and we'll work together on that company submitting, in some cases, a joint packet. Collateral material. While we do have a lot of stuff that we put online, we still have some paper in the office, and so we try to have all the information that a developer, a broker, a company would be interested in terms of Downers Grove. Example of 3 pieces. We have our transportation hub collateral piece that talks again about the transportation and location advantages of Downers Grove. The middle one is a visitor map and community guide. It's mostly aimed at visitors. And the last one is an overall just summary, welcome to Downers Grove. And we keep a long inventory of pieces, some of which are just in a file cabinet somewhere. The idea is that someone asks the question, hey, can I have information about this? We try to get it for them as soon as possible. And if we don't have it, usually we can get it from the village or some other source. CoStar. CoStar is the national database, the leading database of properties and buildings in the United States. We have the ability to look up any address of any building or piece of property, commercial, in the United States, not only get detailed information about that site, if it's available for lease or purchase, but also who the tenants are, what they pay in taxes. It is just an enormous resource for us. What we use it for primarily is site searches. Just this morning I got a call from someone looking to open a specific type of business in Downers Grove. So Millie on our staff runs a site search. It's based on their specs. How big a site do they need? How big a building? And I am in regular contact with our community development team, Stan and Jason, Gabby and Flora, to ensure that the site that we're showing them meets all of the village's zoning requirements, so that they're getting the correct information from us on what's a permitted use, what requires a special use, and so forth. Again, it's a great tool. We run these site searches and provide it directly to the client. We may say, here's 7 sites that meet your specs. They then tell us which ones make sense for them, and then we'll call the brokers and arrange a site tour and take them out and see the building or the property. CoStar also provides us with detailed demographic information and other data like traffic counts, in addition to the information about buildings and properties. We do maintain databases in the office and have thousands of company names and contacts in our system. I wanted to mention 4, and I think of all the screens I'm going to show, this is the one I hope you remember the most. These are our targets, these 4 groups of people. This is who every economic developer focuses on. First, corporate real estate managers. Those are the people who work for a specific company and handle their real estate internally. Now, they may use an outside broker or they may work with a developer, but there's someone on their staff who's responsible for their existing real estate portfolio as well as any new sites they might, or new buildings that they might construct. That photo with the mayor is Joelle Quinlan. She is Director, Senior Vice President of Real Estate for Cooper's Hawk. And spent a lot of time working with her, as did your staff, not only on their new winery and restaurant, but on their new corporate headquarters and on their distribution center that they're opening in Downers Grove. Developers. Developers, in my world, do more than just build buildings. They many times bring the tenants with them. So we try to focus on a preferred developer. Like, example, Walgreens, I think they still do this. I know they've made cutbacks on their new developments. They have about 10 companies within the Chicago area who are authorized, who are certified to build a new Walgreens. So if you want to get a particular business in your town, do they have a corporate real estate manager? Are they using an outside broker? And is there a developer that they work with that actually has been authorized to build their facilities and then usually lease them back? To me, the best developers are the ones that can bring tenants as well as construct a nice building. Real estate brokers, that is, our bread and butter. Commercial, industrial, office, real estate brokers who represent tenants or they represent landlords or buyers and sellers. And there isn't a day that goes by that we're not on the phone with one of them. Most of the time, they're calling us and saying they've got a client that is interested in, building whatever or leasing space. And so that's a world that changes a lot, but we do try to maintain a database of these folks primarily in the Chicago area. The last one are site consultants, which probably we deal with them the least, but when a site consultant calls, that means they're calling on behalf of a big project. An example was Cushman & Wakefield's consulting practice represented Rexnord. So they called up and they've been authorized to put the deal together. They conduct their own site search and they determine what the best locations are for their client, and then they work on the deal. As you may know, an important part of that project was that for the first time in our community's history, our two school districts entered into a property tax abatement agreement, and the village provided an incentive as well. That was part of the job of that site consultant. So thank you, Hank. Shakir will throw that thank you in. The association for economic developers in Illinois is called the Illinois Economic Development Association. I'm very active in that group. I serve as their second vice chair, and I'm chairing the state's Economic Development Summit that's going to be in June in Chicago. The primary reason that I'm involved with them is not only that I believe that I should be involved in my professional association, but membership includes a lot of people that I just mentioned before, site consultants, real estate brokers, and developers. It was a great opportunity to interact with those folks. The other thing is that on an annual basis, this organization puts on an event for site consultants at the Union League Club in Chicago, and for 3 years I had the privilege, because it was a lot of work, privilege of helping put that panel together. And again, it's just a great way to interact with people and meet them. So that leads to a lot of one-on-one relationship building. The International Council of Shopping Centers, ICSC, heard me mention this in the past, it's the largest association for the retail sector. And again, the same group of people, corporate real estate managers, like Joel Quinlan, she's a member of ICSC, brokers and developers, as well as the retailers are members. And I participate in their national show, which is called Recon, as well as the deal-making show. We have a booth at that show each year. It's down at Navy Pier. And again, it's just a chance to wave the flag and tell everyone about Downers Grove. Main Street Association of Realtors, not a well-known organization. Frankly, 5 years ago, I'd never heard of them. But they are the fourth largest association of real estate professionals in the United States. They have something like 17,000 members that covers the entire Chicago area. Now, they have an affiliate called the Commercial Alliance, which represents about 3,000 out of that 17,000. And they're headquartered right here in Downers Grove on Main Street near 68th Street. And we've gotten involved with them, sponsor some of their events. I speak at some of their programs, and it's, even though most of their brokers are what I would call local brokers, are not big players, we've gotten some deals out of it. And again, they're so close; it's 5 minutes away. So it's been a good relationship for us to build. Real Estate Journals is a organization that puts out magazines and newsletters on the commercial real estate market. They also are the largest sponsor of real estate events in the Chicago area. So this year they're rolling out a new one. It's called the State of DuPage County and Western Suburbs Commercial Real Estate Market. It's this Thursday at Power Forward DuPage in Warrenville, and it's the first year doing it, and they're already sold out. And we are one of the sponsors for the event, and they asked me to moderate one of their panel discussions. So again, just a chance to get the word out and have people learn about Downers Grove. We also interact with the state of Illinois on a regular basis through two agencies. The first one is the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, and the second one is Intersect Illinois. DCEO, as it's known, is the primary representative for the state of Illinois and any deals that they're working on, leads that they generate, incentives that they may grant. And then Intersect Illinois is sort of the marketing arm of the state. Their job is to go out and promote Illinois to the rest of the world. It was an agency that was started under Governor Rauner and has been retained by Governor Pritzker. Their job is to go out and tell the world about why companies ought to consider Illinois. And they do occasionally generate leads as well. So we have a good relationship with both those organizations. We have a website for the EDC, dgedc.com, and this year we're going to go out and we're going to have a firm help us enhance the website, add some additional bells and whistles and some features. But again, it's just one of our ways of telling our story to anyone that's researching Downers Grove. And that's just sort of an overview of some of our marketing initiatives. I will tell you that my primary tool is just to pick up the phone and call people. I'm on the phone all day, and I enjoy that very much. But all these other things are necessary to create awareness and to establish relationships that people will then contact us looking for help. And again, there isn't a day that goes by that I'm not on the phone or meeting in person with the staff here at Village Hall. We work together to hopefully land projects and provide the best customer service we can for these companies, the brokers, and so forth. I want to say again, thank you to the Village Council for your tremendous support of our organization. It means a lot to us, and now I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Michael. Any questions for Michael? No? Nobody's got any questions?
Oh, just one, Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed you.
No problem. Thank you, Mayor. Michael, thank you for providing the information on the vacancy rates for industrial and commercial space. I don't expect that you're necessarily going to have the answer off the top of your head, but in the future, could you provide us a comparison on where we might stand in the Chicagoland area?
Yes, absolutely, as well as some historical data, so you can say, well, where were we a year ago? Yes, we'll do that.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor.
I just wanted to say, for those watching at home and for those here tonight, if you haven't seen a quarterly report from EDC or if you don't know the EDC, it's a super important organization in our community. Every community has got the same challenges Downers has. People start businesses and then they stop for whatever reason. And ensuring that those businesses that are here thrive, and when they decide that they're done doing business here, that we fill them or backfill them, is absolutely critical to our long-term vitality as a community. For some perspective, we saw some numbers about sales tax there. Sales tax pays about 25 cents of every dollar it costs to operate the village. If you think about that, if we didn't have any sales tax, which is kind of ridiculous, but for comparison, we'd have to double property taxes to make up the difference. It's really, really important, and the work that Michael does is critical, and his team does is critical to our success as a community, and frankly, they do it very well. So if you want to learn more about EDC, there was the website up there. It's there right now, dgedc.com. I'd encourage residents to take a look. It's really good work done on your behalf by a bunch of really dedicated folks, and thank you for being here, Michael.
Thank you for those kind words. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Takes us to item 5 on our agenda tonight. This is an opportunity for public comments. We'll have several more opportunities as the meeting goes along, but this portion is for subjects not on tonight's agenda. So if you've come tonight and have something you'd like to tell us about or a question you'd like to ask us that's not on tonight's agenda, please approach the podium.
My name is Rose Kraft. My address is 1110 Warren Avenue. And I've came here a few times and I've spoke before the board and before all the representatives here. And it's about Oak Tree Towers, the dirty deal we're getting there. We're being robbed. We're being made sick from AT&T, toxic fumes. And we need help, and nobody wants to seem to help us. Not the police, not the mayor, not anybody in leadership in the town. Why is that? Why do you discriminate against the seniors? It's not only from Oak Tree, it's also from different areas. I've been coming to the meetings, and I see how you treat the seniors. And it's not very good.
Okay.
No questions, no answers, no anything?
Rose, we've
I'm not going to stop.
we've all been here for several other opportunities that you've had to talk with us, and as you know, we've obviously not met your expectations, but also at the same time not ignored it. Our police department has been involved, our community development people have been involved, our village staff. So I realize it doesn't meet your expectations. I understand that.
They're not doing anything.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, the chief said he quit. He's even going to lie about it.
What we're not going to do is debate this from here. You're welcome to stay and continue to talk to us. It's important that folks watching at home and those in the audience realize that this is an ongoing dialogue that is not, we're not coming together on the same set of expectations, but it is not exactly accurate to say that we're just ignoring seniors. That's really patently unfair.
It is true where I live.
Okay. Okay.
It is true.
Okay.
And something needs to be done,
Okay.
because if push comes to shove, I'm shoving right back.
Okay.
There's another thing. The one of the seniors got hurt over on Forest Avenue on a corner. He was run down. I almost got run down the other day, and I was walking in the lines. I think they might need a red light there
At Forest?
at Forest, right by the north side of the track, Forest and Warren.
Okay.
And I have another problem, and I don't know who else to go to because management is not doing anything about it. When someone's stealing your electricity.
Yeah, it's not something we're going to be at all helpful with. There's a building owner and a building manager and an arrangement with
They don't do
ComEd,
nothing.
so
They don't do nothing.
I understand what you're saying.
That's why I'm saying, who else can I go to?
We could probably give you information for maybe Citizens Utility Board. I'm not exactly, honestly, I don't know, Rose, because typically that's an arrangement that's managed between the owner of the building and the utility supplier. It's something that we just are not involved in.
Well, they're not good. They're not good landlords.
Okay.
Not the ones before and not these.
Okay.
I got a few other things, but I'll talk maybe later about it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Others with subjects not on tonight's agenda? Come on down.
Good evening, Commissioners, Mayor Barnett.
Evening.
My name is Terry Duke. I reside at 725 41st Street and have for quite a few years here in Downers Grove. I was doing a little running around today, doing a couple errands, and this is something I've been kind of thinking about for quite some time. I think most people always have like on their bumper sticker, my second car or my second vehicle. Well, mine's a bicycle. I like to sit there and ride my bicycle any place I can, and it brought to me about a thought that when I was out running my errands today, this summer, I just went over to the Downers Grove, I think it's the Square Market on Ogden Avenue. The Starbucks just got moved. So this is one of those kind of places where I think a lot of people from Downers Grove shop. They get their hair cut there, great clips. You know, the point being is that it's close to my house. I'd rather ride my bike than start my car. But the one thing that seems to always be missing is some place to actually lock my bike up. Now they, the folks at the Great Clips have been very nice. They've said, bring your bike in. I don't want to lock it to a garbage can. I don't want to lock it, to a municipal tree. But I think that on the most part, if we look at it from a perspective of if this is a landlord or a business development that's been actually made a change of this nature, where they move one actual business to another corner to improve, open up more areas of establishment, shouldn't that same business development, that building manager, consider doing improvements that allow people to have the capability to bring their bike, secure it, make sure it's not something that on the most part, I have to put on the onus of the actual business, but it should be there for me to utilize. I came here today, I came right up to the Village Hall, right in front of the actual Village Hall. There's a 10 by 10 area with a bike rack for me to lock my bike up. I don't think that's anything that shouldn't be included in any kind of actual areas here in Downers Grove that should allow us to have a safe, secure, availability to do that. That's what I want to leave you with. And I'm not sure, I thought while they were doing the Starbucks, maybe I should sit there and reach out and talk to the business manager, but I thought it would be best to talk to the village. And the reason why I think it's important to talk to the village is bike routes have been established. People sit there and are looking at bikes more and more as an actual second mode of transportation. I think the thing that's important is how do we sit there and kind of connect that other rail, make sure that these things are actually addressed. I don't know if it's in the village in regards to what they sit there and do improvements, but I think it is something we should consider. And I think it's something that on the most part, it just makes Downers Grove a better place. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for bringing that up. Any other comments not on tonight's agenda? Okay, we'll move on then to our consent agenda. Is there a motion for the consent agenda?
Mayor Barnett, I move that the council adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Any council comments about the consent agenda? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Thank you. Our active agenda is normally the part of the meeting where we are going to bring up subjects, discuss them, and then take final action on them. We have no active agenda tonight. So we'll move on to our first reading portion of our meeting. The first reading portion, these are subjects that we're going to discuss perhaps for the first time tonight, sometimes for the second or third time, but items we will not be taking a final vote this evening. So with that, I'll pass it off to our staff, who will introduce a few things for us.
Thank you, Mayor Barnett. There are 3 items on tonight's first reading agenda, and I am going to take them out of order to accommodate some special guests. So we'll start with item C, which is actually last on the first reading agenda. It's the motion to accept the Downers Grove High School's pedestrian safety study. This project has been ongoing and has been a partnership with Community School District 99, along with your village. And I'm going to start right at the top here and introduce Dr. Hank Thiele, Superintendent of School District 99, to say a few words about this project. Dr. Thiele.
Mayor Barnett and Commissioners, thanks for putting this on the agenda today and for all of the work that's been done around this. It's actually next week will mark a year ago that Beth Dunlap was struck and killed in front of North High. And since that time, we've worked really hard to remember Beth for her life, not for her death. And the work that we are doing here, I think, is essential as part of doing that work. Making sure that no other student is ever hurt, or doing our best to do that, is the important work that comes out of that. For the last year, there have been a lot of moments of silence in District 99 related to this. And in every one of those, I have used that time to reflect and to check in to make sure I'm doing everything I possibly can as a leader within the district to make sure that all of our kids are safe related to safety, especially pedestrian safety. That's the last year of reflection has been around this. And I think the proposal, I don't want to steal Dave's thunder, the proposal you're going to see today really addresses a lot of those concerns directly around the school and throughout the community. It was a great community engagement process. But the reason I came here to talk was just to let you know how responsive the village team has been over the last year. Within the days following the accident, we were meeting frequently on a regular basis, talking about what could we do immediately to respond to that, to support our students and our families directly impacted by this, and then how do we make sure that this doesn't just disappear and just be a blip on our radar that we never did anything about. And the village has really stuck by us through that work over the last year in partnering and bringing in the consultants, working together on that, countless hours in meeting with parents and students and residents and responding to emails and phone calls and really listening to everybody's ideas and taking them seriously. Not turning away anybody's ideas and really listening carefully to what people throughout the community saw were concerns. And I hope tonight you're going to get a chance to see through that public engagement what the outcomes of those are. I know our board is really looking at this seriously. There's some recommendations that impact the District 99 properties and the areas around that. We're working on that with our teams, and we'll be addressing that. And we look forward to being continuing partners with the village as we look at the rest of these recommendations. So thank you, and thank you to the staff for all the time and efforts spent responding to this and for making our community better. One of the things that I continue to say around this is the unfortunate part of this work is you'll never know what difference that you've had. Nobody comes into the office and says, oh, I didn't get in an accident today, all right? But we have to trust in the work and trust that what we're doing is right by kids and by our community. And I thank you for your time and effort in doing that. So thank you, and thank you, Dave, and the village team.
Thank you so much, Dr. Thiele. Thank you for that impromptu, heartfelt introduction. I'm going to skip right to the work that's been done. Thank you for that introduction. We got started right away over the summer making safety enhancements in front of and around both schools, and those enhancements are shown here on the screen, from message boards encouraging safe driver and pedestrian behaviors to speed limit reductions to the creation of school zones and approval of the installation of a traffic signal near South High at 63rd and Springside. These were the improvements that went in right away in response to community input, and were in place before the school year started. And the installation of that traffic signal at 63rd and Springside will be done in the coming months later this year. After extensive public engagement, our consultant that we hired on this job, Sam Schwartz Consulting Firm, identified several recommendations at both South High School and North High School to achieve our goals of improving pedestrian and vehicular safety. They are numerous, and they are summarized on the board in front of you here: reducing speed limits and providing permanent speed feedback signs around South High School. And this is the second one, is a very big one. It's been a community effort for many years. It's the idea that we should be moving to install a traffic signal with pedestrian crosswalks at the intersection of Main Street and Oxford. This has been an ongoing discussion. We think that time is right to proceed and approach the county and see what we can do on a street they control. but we will put significant resources behind this recommendation. There are other recommendations that also would take place that affect directly onto the school South High property, including adding vehicular access driveways into the school property, adding drop-off lanes into the school property, and a lot of recommendations that talk about minor to moderate modifications of intersections around the school to make it safer for people to cross streets, to make it safer for cars to interact with pedestrians at those locations. So you can just see by the number of recommendations here on the screen, a thorough job and some bold recommendations that we think will be effective as we move forward. It's the same story at North High. I just wanted to highlight a couple of major recommendations in and around North High School. The first is the idea that we could convert Main Street for the stretch in front of North High from 4 travel lanes down to 3. So right now you can picture 2 travel lanes in each direction. If you can also picture changing it to 1 travel lane in each direction, and then in the middle a series of protected turn lanes and islands that would be safe for pedestrians to stand in so they cross only 1 lane at a time. This would also have the effect of getting traffic to flow at rates of speed that are similar to or at the posted speed limits. So those pedestrian refuge islands and crosswalks would work in tandem with that recommendation of changing the lane configuration. We have other recommendations that you see on the screen, turn lanes, curb extensions, street lighting, etc. But I also wanted to highlight another recommendation, and that's, I think, a topic that we're going to hear more about, not just at the high schools, but at the middle schools and grade schools. This idea of perhaps we should be complete sidewalk networks around the schools. We just had a multi-decade program to make sure we put sidewalks on at least one side of every street in town. And around some of the schools, we have sidewalks on only one side of the street. And this recommendation is specifically targeting Saratoga and Sherman near the practice fields at North High, the idea to complete a 2-sided sidewalk system. I'm sure that's going to get some discussion. There's been some grade school and middle school discussion ongoing, and I think you're going to hear more about that. So I won't go through all these recommendations, but again, you can see a robust list of enhancements. So what are the next steps in this project? First, we're asking the Village Council to simply accept this report and then refer it to the Transportation and Parking Commission, where we would work as staff with representatives from the school district and the TAP, Transportation and Parking Commission, to create sort of a multi-year work plan from these series of recommendations, budgets, those types of things, put them in some sort of priority order, and then provide input opportunities on these recommendations, hold neighborhood meetings, et cetera, as we move through this long list to try to implement it. So the next time the council and the community would see actual recommendations coming forward are probably the earliest later this year, with a focus on the 2021 budget. And this process will give us the opportunity to work through those recommendations and engage our public as we move from idea to an actual project. I want to take a minute to thank everybody on our staff team here at the Village, and Dr. Thiele particularly, everybody on the District 99 team. It's been a great partnership so far, and we expect that partnership will continue on focusing on pedestrian safety for many years. We're happy, Dr. Thiele and I and others are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Dave. Are there any council comments or questions at this stage of the process? Rich?
Just a brief comment. Thank you for this thorough process. It was open to the public at both North High and South High. Those parents and stakeholders who were most affected got a chance to be right in the front lines to have their recommendations, and many of them have turned out here. And in the thorough process, I know people say, well, why can't you do these things faster? Well, sometimes you do things fast and sometimes you do them right. And this has also had the right sense of urgency around it, so I'm impressed with the work.
Commissioner, I'll also add to that students were also involved in that, closely involved in that feedback.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to also thank District 99 for being such a tremendous partner in this. I know the village staff has been very complimentary of Dr. Thiele and his staff, and we appreciate all of the help, because the only way to do this right is to truly be partners in this. And I look forward to hearing what TAP has to say and all of the other feedback that's going to come from the community in making sure that we keep the areas around north and south and all of our schools safe. Thank you, Mayor.
Anyone else? Any comments or questions from the audience on this? Next steps likely along the lines on the screen there. Okay, seeing none, I'll just add, Dr. Thiele, thank you for coming tonight. It is awfully nice to hear the comments you made earlier, but as Greg said, please know that we feel the exact same way. Every bit of feedback we've gotten from our team has been that the district has been super helpful and creative and thoughtful and really wanting to be a partner in this. And I think it's also appropriate to say thank you to the community. Between the students that Dr. Thiele mentioned and the nearly 500 online comments that people took time to go in and put pins on Max and make comments and show up at the various forums that Rich was talking about. Like so many things, we're better if we do this together. And sometimes it's tough to get started, and sometimes it's tough things that get you started. But it's good to see the community jumping up and getting behind us and trying to be participants as well. We really appreciate that. So I guess with that, we'll move on.
And another group of folks, the folks at Sam Schwartz Consulting did an excellent job, specifically Stacy Meekins and Kelly Conley in their work. They're engineers and planners who also relate very well to non-technicians and community members, so well done there. Thank you, Mayor. With that, we'll move back to our regular order here, and we'll go to item A, which is a motion considering an award of contract for Fairview parking lot lighting. It is my distinct pleasure to reintroduce to most of you our new Public Works Director and returning teammate, Andy Sikich.
Thanks, Dave. Good evening. It's really great to be back. It's good to be in front of you again. This will be brief, just a very short presentation on this project. Go easy on me. It's my second day, so I'll do the best I can.
Wrong meat.
We try to engineer technical problems as part of the introduction.
Yeah, this is how you haze
Is
the
this a hazing? Right. Are we hazing?
It's a hazing ritual.
I don't know, and it worked just fine for me. I don't know.
And thank you. If there's any questions, actually, before the pictures come up, I could just tell you a little bit about the project. Staff identified the existing streetlights in the Fairview Business District are in need of replacement. The streetlights are deteriorated and replacement parts are no longer available. The total scope of the project includes the full replacement of all the decorative streetlights in the Fairview Business District between Maple and 2nd Street. But in September 2019, the village was awarded a $90,000 grant from the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, DCEO, for the replacement of the streetlights in this area. The scope of work outlined in the grant has to be completed by June 30th of this year, 2020. So it's a very short time frame. And that's, in order for those to be awarded at all, we have to be done with the work by June 30th. So to comply with the deadline, the village identified 16 lights in and around the Fairview train station and in the parking lot that can be replaced by June 30th of this year. The remaining 26 streetlights in the Fairview Business District are still identified in the CIP to be replaced as a capital project in the future. So this is just the first part. So real quick, these photos, this is a decorative streetlight here. This is what would be placed along the rear of the platform of the metro station. This is the exact same light that's out in front of Village Hall here. These lights are the kind of the standard go-to parking lot lights now. They're the LEDs, they're very efficient, and they provide excellent lighting. This is what we have in the Belmont train station and in Lot D. And this just shows where those would be going, the funky yellow shapes there. Those are the decorative lights behind the platform, and the 8 black shapes there, those are the higher LED lights. This will actually also provide a much better level of lighting for the people in the parking lot. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Thanks, Andy. Anybody got any questions about the lighting?
Oh, goodness. Thank you for this. Thank you so much. I have been, I've been advocating for new lights in this whole Fairview Business District for what seems like ever. It gets shown, but we never actually get to it. And I think that this is a great start. I am looking very much forward to doing more than this. I know that along with streetlights, there's more the streetlights that are left, there's some more intensive work that has to go along with those streetlights being installed. But the sooner we can bring this all together, I think the better for all of us. And we have to start someplace, so that I'm thrilled to see this going forward. So, and the rest of it, as soon as possible, please. So, thank you.
Any other council questions? Any questions from the audience on the streetlights over at Fairview? Okay. Andy, welcome.
Thank you very much.
I'm glad you're here. Thank you.
Thank you, me too.
And finally, tonight is item B on our agenda, an ordinance authorizing a special use for the property at 5207 Main Street. And here to provide background information on this petition is our Community Development Director, Stan Popovich.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. As Manager Fieldman noted, this is a special use for medical office at 5207 Main Street. This property is located right in the downtown here on the east side of the intersection of Main Street and Grove Street. It's currently configured with a one-story office building on the north side and a parking lot on the south side. Showing the petitioner's site plan here, you can see the existing building on the top of the screen there. The petitioner is proposing to modify the buildings. We're going to have 4 entrances on the building. The main entrance to the medical office building will be the southwest corner of the property here. There's another patient entrance to the east of that, and then the 2 other circles are staff entrances, one on the south side and then one on the east side of the building. The petitioner is proposing significant landscape improvements in the parking lot and adjacent to the building as well. You can see in the parking lot the addition of some parking islands with some green space there, and then along the south side of the building some landscaping. And then on the east side of on the west side of the building, excuse me, they're proposing to remove the concrete sidewalk and steps that are immediately adjacent to the building and replace that with landscaping. In addition to that, there's 4 public benches that will be provided, seating options, 2 of them close to the north side of the site, and then 2 in the southwest corner of the property, creating somewhat of a little pocket park there, some unused space where parking cars can't happen. So that would be a nice little amenity to that location there as well. But with regard to pedestrian connections, there are a new dedicated sidewalk on the south side of the building right now that's being proposed. So that will connect the main street to our parking garage, and the sidewalk on the west side of the parking garage via crosswalk as well. So it'd be nice to have a dedicated sidewalk along this way where there's not currently one at this time. If we take a look at the existing parking lot, you can see there's just our sidewalk and then a concrete ramp and then the parking lot. So what's being proposed is some additional landscaping there that'll separate and buffer the cars from the sidewalk, with some landscape lighting, fencing, some street trees as well that'll go into there to beautify that portion of the parking lot. If we look at the existing building, this is the southwest corner of the existing building. The proposal is to change the look and appearance of the building to this. So we get a new corner feature with a taller roof articulation here where the lobby's going to be, some nice windows and some differentiation on the roof. And we have windows along Main Street here, which is on the left side of this image. And then you also see here where the sidewalk and the steps adjacent to the building on the west side are removed as well. And then you can see the staff entrance and the secondary entrance further to the right of this image as well. If we look at the northwest corner of the building here, again, this is existing conditions. What they're proposing to do is do some different wall materials. You can see the landscaping. In this image, you can see the 2 area cutouts for the benches there that'll have, and then there's some improvements to the north facade as well, shown in this elevation here. With regard to the downtown business design guidelines, as I've touched on slightly here earlier, we're using different materials. We've got some bricks, some aluminum wood planks, metal copings, metal fascia, and some metal canopies in here, so a good differentiation of materials. We do have our corner feature here, which changes the roof line articulation, and then as well on various sides of the building, some differentiation in the roof line. The unique architectural feature, which is now the corner there with some awnings. And then additionally, the windows like I've spoken about, and then the landscaping and the pedestrian connections as well. And there is a bike rack on the southeast side of the building too, so I just wanted to point that out as well. I know there's an individual here that mentioned that, so I added that to my presentation, just sitting back behind Manager Fieldman. So we do have that as well. And then the pedestrian-oriented sort of focus here at the corner to have all the pedestrians at this corner enter the building as well. With regard to the comprehensive plan, it's a downtown key focus area. Some of the downtown comp plan requirements and suggestions: reduce asphalt, which we're doing through landscaping, pedestrian oriented, and a shared parking agreement, which the village is working with the developer to enter into something where the public can use the parking lot at off hours. The Plan Commission found that the standards for special use approval were met, and they recommended approval of the petition. If there's any questions at this time, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Thank you, Stan.
You're welcome.
Start with the council. We got, sorry?
No, go ahead, Mayor. Thanks.
Okay. Any council questions?
Just have
We're going to start on the left?
I'll start on the right.
Okay.
Put you on the spot.
Oh, my. First of all, I'm really impressed with the changes that were made to this. I was following this very closely after it left Plan Commission. Plan commissioners, even those who voted in favor of this original petition, had some great input, and it's delightful to see that in. We were briefed individually, and we had the opportunity to put in input, and it's exciting and gratifying to see that actually show up in the plans. So I'm way more excited about this than I was before, and I think it's a good investment in downtown. I do have at least one question, or two questions tied together. The windows on the front, that will be now a lobby as opposed to private exam offices?
Yeah, petitioner's here, and I'm sure he'd be happy to answer that question for you.
Okay. Well, we could hold it if, you know, for the petitioner's time.
Go ahead.
If my colleagues have any questions for staff.
Good evening. My name is David Henney, and I'm representing the ownership of the property. This evening, I have with me Christos Georgakopoulos, who is with DuPage Medical Group, as well as Kent Raymer, who is our architect and is the inspiration behind the building before you this evening. Before I turn it over to Kent to answer the specific questions that you have, I just want to thank you for your time, for your input, the Plan Commission, the guidance that we've received from staff throughout this process. I would agree with you, Commissioner, that the product that we have this evening is far superior to what we had in the past, and we're very excited for this project and to bring DuPage Medical Group to the property. But with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Raymer.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. My name is Kent Raymer with Ekinos Lenders Architects. To answer your question, yes, we've rearranged the floor plan inside the building. So we will have the lobby space, the waiting room, immediately beyond the glass you see on the front. It's about 20 feet deep across that whole majority of that front part of the building that will be the waiting room. You see in the kind of the back corner in this image, there's two smaller windows. Those are in exam rooms. So those will probably have blinds closed, but we've tried to create as much of that front facade as waiting rooms so that there is life and activity there facing the street. So.
Will those lights be kept on after your hours and in the evening?
Yeah, very often in waiting rooms, we would leave at least maybe dim it down to 50% overnight, or at least like a little strip right along the window. You know, and certainly in most public areas, there's lights that always have to be on for emergency, so those would be on. So we'll work through that and make sure that there's at least a little bit of light there overnight.
And then you're putting in ground lighting in front of the parking lot in those landscaped areas?
Yeah, you know, there are several street lights existing along the sidewalk there, but we are supplementing that with some additional illumination that'll help light up the landscaping and the sidewalk along that street front.
Yeah, well, I think you've done a fine job in making this more walkable. Our concern is, and the comprehensive plan talks about having the street wall, but we don't own that property. You guys do. And so I think this is a great improvement that will keep people who are walking southbound from Valley Doyle to realize downtown doesn't end there. There are other shops there. And so it's well done. Thank you.
Leslie, do you have a question?
No, I didn't have a question. I just had a comment. I want to echo that. I'm really impressed with the level of work that's been done over these past few months. I know that reading through some of the Plan Commission notes and some other comments, it's just really important to me to remember that if we really want an urban feel for our downtown, we need not only goods but also services. So even though it may not be quite as exciting to have a medical building in downtown, it's necessary if we really want to have that little bit more of an urban feel to attract people to our downtown. Not to mention the fact that there will be people that will be continuing to have lunch and participate in some of our businesses. So I'm also incredibly impressed with the level of work that's gone into responding to feedback from residents, from the Plan Commission, and even from council. I think this building is an enormous improvement. I think it's going to look beautiful, and I appreciate all of the thought that's gone into the lighting and the landscaping, even just rearranging those windows. I'm really impressed, and I just wanted to say that I appreciated the work and the time that's put into this, so thank you.
Cool.
Sure, yeah, I'm going to try not to be redundant, but I'm really pleased with how the final product turned out. I appreciate your willingness to work with us on some things like adding a bench or additional bushes here and there. And also just want to highlight how appreciative I am that we were able to form a partnership where this parking lot will be able to be used by the public after hours. And I think that that's a huge benefit to our residents. So greatly appreciate that as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Dakota. Marge?
It's no secret that this is not what we had envisioned for this space when we had written the comprehensive plan. So this wasn't really what we were expecting. I will say it's far better than what's there. It is far better than what was originally proposed at Plan Commission. My only request at this point is that the north wall of this runs along the pedestrian walkway that goes to the parking garage. And I know you've done a little bit of work on that side of the building, but it's going to, the opposite side of that is Ballydoyle's, where they have actually changed a lot of the look of the building as you walk down that walkway, and it looks more inviting than it would otherwise look with just a blank wall. Because it's so unique and inviting on the Ballydoyle side, I would like to see that reflected a little bit more on the north side of your building. If there's a little bit more changes that you could make that would improve the look of it a little bit more to draw people up and down that alleyway to the parking deck, because it's such a heavily used feature in town and that walkway is so heavily used. I would really greatly appreciate it. I know some attempts have been made in the past on that wall, but and even this is an improvement, and it's more than what's there now. But I would maybe a door, maybe some windows, just a little bit more to make it a little more interesting for the folks who are walking up and down there. So that's my 2 cents. But thank you so much for coming in and being willing to work with us.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to, without repeating what's already been said, echo all the different comments. This is a tremendous improvement. I want to thank DuPage Medical for investing in Downers Grove. The only real critique I've heard from the community really doesn't have anything to do with the building itself or the fact that it's DuPage Medical or that there's going to be expanded medical offices in our downtown. It's the loss of the pharmacy that is currently there. I wish Michael Castle were here to hear that, so that we could kind of keep the idea in his head that it would be good to try to find another place in or around our downtown area. But I think this is a tremendous improvement, and I look forward to voting for it. Thank you, Mayor.
If I could, Commissioner, just to answer your question about the pharmacy, that gentleman has chosen to relocate pretty far outside of Downers Grove, so he's made the decision to move his business elsewhere. And we're happy to keep him in the building as long as we can until he gets his proper licensing at his new location.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. And like I said, it's really more of an economic development comment than anything for just providing the continued mix of services in our downtown. But thank you.
Thanks, Greg. I will repeat a couple of things. First of all, I'm excited that this is going forward because I think access to health care is important. Leslie talked a little bit about walkability, but access is not just having it sort of somewhere close. It's having it somewhere convenient. And if you look at our community, we're a much longer, taller community than we kind of think of sometimes. We sit in our own neighborhood and we think of our neighborhood. But from 75th Street all the way up to 88, there's a lot of Downers Grove. And getting to one spot, either far north or far south, is a lot tougher than you might think. So I think this is frankly a real benefit to our community and our downtown. But I also want to follow up and repeat something else that was said. I totally agree with Marge. At the risk of being offensive, and I'm not trying to be, it's like Stateville without the razor wire on that north wall. That really, Marge makes a really excellent point, and it's something not to be lost on. You guys have done a fantastic job of helping our downtown understand or realize this street wall that Rich talks about, this community that doesn't end at the Valley Doyle line. And we're really thankful for it. We really genuinely are very thankful for that. But that walkway that Marge talks about is traversed all the time, and it's traversed all the time when there's community events. When we've got art fairs in the street, or we've got ice sculpture festivals like we just had this weekend, or we've got pancake breakfasts that are being hosted places, that sidewalk is traversed nonstop by families and kids and people hanging. And so if you guys can find a way to do something more, different, better along those lines, it really is something that I'm sure our community entirely, beyond just this council, would really appreciate. It's a great looking project that you guys have done a great job on otherwise, and we really are thankful for it. Go ahead.
Well, one, thank you for the kind words about the project overall. With regard to the north wall, there's two challenges that we have. One is that the finished floor is higher than that of the sidewalk, so there's really not an opportunity for a door. And most of that wall are exam rooms, which, for obvious reasons, they prefer that there not be any transparency into. I believe there may be some administrative offices where we might be able to pop a window or two in, and if that's the case, then we'd be happy to do that, and if that gives the council the comfort and satisfaction they need, then we'll go ahead and do that.
Just give it some thought and continue to talk with Stan and the team, and just realize it's sort of the one thing that I think people are still a little bit concerned about.
I have one more question.
Rich,
I don't suppose you could put in like a Hollywood facade that would make it look like Valley Doyle's, but just, nothing behind it?
Hadn't thought about that.
Well, think about it. I'm not even mostly kidding.
Let me sort of summarize on behalf of my colleagues. Thank you, really, genuinely. We're glad you're here, and we're glad, and we really appreciate the work you've done working with our team to try and put together a project that we're all going to end up proud of. So thank you. Are there any council or comments from the audience or questions from the audience about this? Please come up to the microphone.
Hi, Jim Watson, Bel Air. On that wall, I actually had my family photos there this year. It's a beautiful just backdrop. That Valley Doyle is great there. But even, I've seen this in Naperville before. They've done some beautiful murals on just a plain brick wall where you don't even have to have the windows there. And it would just really light up that area too, because it is a frequent walkway. So as an option, I think that would be great.
Thank you. Anything else from the audience? Any parting words from the council for tonight? We'll be back at this again. Thank you again.
And that ends our first reading tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thanks. Dave, do you have a manager's report tonight?
I have no additional report tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Attorney's report. Enza.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, only one item tonight, and that is the ordinance authorizing a special use for 5207 Main Street. It will appear on next week's active agenda. That is all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Enza. Mayor and council member reports. This is an opportunity for council members to talk about goings-on in the community or other boards that they're part of. Hang on one second. So we generally go up and down the line here, and people weigh in on things on their minds. We have in the audience, Laura, did you want to say something?
No, I'm here to listen and learn tonight.
Okay, all right. Thank you for being here. So with that, council member reports. This time we'll start to the left. Marge.
I want to thank the Newton Lions Club for having me over to just listen about and learn about what's going on in the village and village projects, and they were very gracious in having me this afternoon. So that's all I have for today.
Thanks, Marge. Right.
I just wanted to note that, a little editorial comment, this was a neat kind of tour of a lot of the things the village does over the last 71 minutes, I guess it is. We had an EDC presentation, projects from community development and public works, and a tremendous partnership with District 99. It's a nice little tour of what it is we do and all the things that go on behind the scenes. The duck looks very peaceful on the top of the pond, but there's an awful lot of work going on underneath. So thanks to everybody. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Greg. Rich?
I want to thank the village on behalf of the Downers Grove Historical Society for last Wednesday's historic dedication of the Dickey Firehouse, the original firehouse. And our firefighters came out for us. The chief did a wonderful job in presentation. I learned a lot about it. And yeah, it was a full house, so thank you very much.
Thanks, Rich. Leslie?
No report, Mayor.
Nicole?
Bringing it back to District 99, just showing that partnership again. We as a village council are a proud sponsor of the District 99 Education Foundation's 7th annual Pizza Wars fundraiser. So if you are interested in attending that, it is a delicious event. It is Thursday, February 27th from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. in the South High Cafeteria. In advance, tickets can be purchased at d99ef.org/Pizza Wars 2020 for $10, and they can also be purchased at the door for $15. Hope to see you there. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Nicole. I don't have any report tonight. I want to say welcome again to Andy. Good to see you. Appreciate that. We normally would adjourn at this stage of the meeting, but we are not going to do that tonight. So is there a motion?
Mayor, I move that the council convene into closed session pursuant to Section 2C2 of the Illinois Open Meetings Act to consider collective negotiating matters between the village and its employees or their representatives, and pursuant to Section 2C5 of the Illinois Open Meetings Act to consider the purchase or lease of real property for the use of the village or whether a particular parcel should be required. Yeah, it should be acquired. Excuse me.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned to our executive session.